What up, Pittsburgh Steelers fans? Welcome to Steelers Touch Down Under. I am joined by my Down Under co-host, Marky Davison. Mate, what's like upside down?
Mate, you're upside down. I'm having troubles with my laptop, so this is the only way I can record.
Fair enough.
Nah, it's not.
Fair enough.
Nah, I'll change it. You made a good suggestion yesterday because I was going to do this in my car, and you said, why not bring the mount to your room? Right?
Correct.
And look what happened. I'm now upside down, so it's all your fault. We'll change it. Hang on.
Well, that's my fault. Well, it's a bit like Terrell Evans moving up because isn't Philadelphia north of Pittsburgh, technically. Anyway, yeah, it's just kind of a bit different now with like Terrell Edmunds moving over to the NFC. That's kind of been a big news, and then they still signed a depth piece at tackle. I know you got a breaking news video out on it a little while ago, Mark.
Yeah. Just woke up.
Oh, and we've lost Mark there. So Marky Davison has gone from being down under to all the way out. But anyway, the Steelers basically overnight for us today for you guys in the US signed Lavelle Clark, a tackle drafted by the Colts, spent time at the Titans and the Philadelphia Eagles as well. I believe he switched toward mid last season. Look, when you look at Clark, he's really a depth piece for the Steelers. He's not going to take Dan Moore's job. He's not going to take, Okorafor's job. He's only going to be a depth piece there. So that's the reality of the signing when you think about Lavelle Clark. For me now, the Steelers got to fix safety. They've got to look at veteran wide receiver. And we'll welcome Marky D back. Maybe he fell over and he's a bit dizzy, but hopefully he comes back with some good takes. Yeah, there, mate.
Yeah, my apologies. If you can hear me, I hit the wrong button. So
no problem.
Here we go, Steelers. I think this is really difficult on a phone. Oh, I need it back. Bring me back my laptop. I did a breaking news today. I woke up at 7. I was like, I guess like another unexpected signing. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I was just talking about that while you were jumping back in, and like the reality that like it's a depth piece. He's bummed around a bunch of teams. Helpful. Like he's not going to replace Dan Moore Jr. He's not going to replace anyone they draft in the 3rd or 4th round or above who gets brought in as a tackle. It's just depth. I'm not sitting there. This is not a solution piece for me.
Yeah, but to me, it's still pretty exciting though because they're doing something. They're bringing in a lot of O-line guys, so I obviously think there's. But
I'll give you this one. I'm interested to see. All right. Like from this angle, then I think it's like everyone with Zach Banner when we brought him in, and what was he going to do? And we signed the deal, and yeah, he had the injury, but nothing ever really happened there. So I guess. I don't know. I just don't. I want the Steelers to focus on signing a safety. That to me, that's where they got to go.
Yeah, but also like to me, it creates competition. That's right. And I think in
does it? Yeah, more.
Always you bring in bloody anyone creates competition. Doesn't matter who you bring in. I'd still be worried if you bring in.
Do you think Alex Highsmith? Do you think Alex Highsmith and TJ Watt are worried about Jameer Jones or Quincy Roche?
Maybe not worry, but I think that level of competition is still there in the building. They're still competing for the job, still competing for reps. It gets them, and not saying that like the competition has to be starter level, but like still bringing someone in to fight for that job. You look at what happened with James Debo Harrison. No one thought he was going to do anything at undrafted free agent, and he ended up getting a job. So I think any signing that.
But it was a bit different because the Steelers had a plan for him. Like, if this guy was going to have made it, he's been in the league since 2016. Like, I don't hate it. Like, I think it's always good to get depth. I'm just not sitting here going, oh yeah, the Steelers just got better at tackle.
Well, what I'm saying is, if like you're Dan Moore, they bring in a left tackle, you're like, oh, that guy. Like, they're not rating everyone who's better, who's worse like that. They're like, well, that guy's coming in for my job. I want to get better. It's like a new Pittsburgh Steelers channel. That is called Steelers Not Touchdown Under or Steelers New Zealand. We'd be like, oh, those guys from New Zealand, they're doing a better job than us. They actually have a laptop. They have a better headset. And I'd be like, I'm looking over there going, well, they're going to get the news from there, not from me. So
I don't know.
I don't know.
Maybe I just think I don't think they should be spending their time on this. I think this guy is a guy who could have been brought in after the draft. I think they need to be focusing on a safety and a veteran wide receiver. We talked about that on the Mad Monday show. Like, I don't want to hear anything more about depth pieces. I want to hear how they're going to fill the 3 starter roles. And that's on the Steelers. Of course, it's not to decide it. But I don't know. That's not the news I want to wake up to when I hear Terrell Evans is signing with the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, I know. As Steelers fans, we want to see the big names like that. But like, I'm kind of sick of that, to be honest, man. I reckon what they're doing.
All right, but this is where I think this is the thing for me though is that we'll sit here and we want them to do better than last year. Is he going to make us do better than last year? And when we've got holes on the roster, I don't think so. I just don't.
But it's going to happen like regardless anyway because Andy Weidel and Omar Khan. I think they're having. I got asked a question today from Alex in my channel on Steelers Oz, and said, "How would you rate the free agent period so far?" And I said, "Well, they told us at the beginning of it that they're going to go to the trenches. They're going to beef up both lines, and that's what they're doing. They're beefing up both lines. They're getting in new players. They're bringing in more competition. They're bringing in more depth." And I graded overall a B. I think every move has made sense so far. People talk about we haven't got a left tackle with Dan Moore. Then you brought in a guy that can possibly maybe compete for that job. Not saying he's going to win it, but they can certainly compete for it. And then maybe go in the draft. I don't think it's a bad signing, to be honest. I trust them what they're doing. I'm not saying it's a bad signing.
I'm not saying bad signing. It's just not news that I'm not jumping out of my skin about. I'm like focus on the bigger issues kind of thing for the Steelers. That's the way I see it. So I don't know.
Yeah, fair enough. And I'm like, let's go Super Bowl, mate.
Yeah, but this is the thing. This guy doesn't get the Super Bowl. Like you draft a guy and I don't see it. He had a lot to work on. I will listen to the.
Is it because his name's a Raven? Is that why his name's La Raven? Is that why you don't like him?
No, I'm just sitting there and I think sometimes we put a lot of weight in the depth players that don't materially change anything. Like the best thing for the Steelers right now is this guy never takes the field unless he's a swing tackle or it's special teams. We don't want Dan Moore injured. We don't want Okorafor injured. Like we don't want to see big snaps out of this guy. So I don't.
Yeah, he might not even make the team, to be honest. They do a lot of those signings as well.
I'm like fixed DT wide receiver safety. It's like, but Joe on the live chat brings up, hey everyone on the live chat. Joe Devil brings up the whole 48 situation with Jameer Jones and Bud Dupree. If Bud Dupree, comes back to the Steelers, he's coming in for a visit and a physical. I don't know. Everyone be careful. Remember, Ogunjobi signed a deal with the Bears pending a physical, and he didn't pass the physical. So hopefully Dupree does. But, again, how much is Dupree going to cost? Because safety, DT, third wide receiver are bigger gaps than the depth at edge right now. You can get depth at edge in the draft. Like,
you think he signs if he does clear the physical today or whatever it is?
If he gets a deal on more than $5 million, what did Melvin Ingram sign at? If he gets anything more than Melvin Ingram got, I'm gonna hate the deal.
Right, Melvin Ingram, he was bought for a heartbeat, wasn't he?
Well, he was there for 6-7 games. I want the thing is I'm getting sick of like these gambles that aren't working out. Like I want to see the team. I'm not expecting a Super Bowl in 2023, but I do kind of expect they'll be in the mix in 2024. And that's why I'm like, I really want to see the Steelers grab guys that are going to make the tangible difference. That's the thing. Well, they traded him for a 6th round draft pick, so they were just paying him whatever the deal was that the Chargers had him on. I think it was worth $4 million overall. But but if Bud Dupree is over whatever the exact specifics of Melvin Ingram's deal was, that I'm going to be upset about that.
Yeah, right. Sorry, I'm just fixing my stuff.
That's all right. I don't know, Mark. So obviously we're kind of now through almost 2 weeks of free agency. You said you'd give them a B. If you were to describe what the Steelers have done in free agency in like a word or a couple of words, Like what to you comes to mind?
I think everything's been pretty much relevant, right? To what they said. Like, I think with Omar Khan, and Waddle and that, and the organization said we're going to go focus on the trenches, and they're bringing in pieces. That's more than a few words, but I would say probably relevant.
No, well, relevant. You said relevant. I
Yeah.
picked that up.
Yeah, but not like I know it's not crazy, but you know what? I don't know. The more I do this stuff on YouTube and content creation, if I do a good job or I don't do a good job, I think every year with social media, we want the big splashy things to happen. But you go back years into 2004, and I don't know. I remember the days that you wouldn't see a middle linebacker play for like 4 years, right? You just didn't see him play. They're just dead. And then we started Kendrick Green at center because everyone wanted that, and that happened, and that didn't work out. Steelers trade up to get Devin Bush, which wasn't really a move they normally do, and that didn't work out. The only one I saw working out was with Minka. So I think for a moment, what Omar Khan and Waddle and Tomlin are doing in the organization, maybe they're getting back to their roots of just bringing in guys who are physical. Like this guy who they signed, right? If he's depth or not, he's 6'5", big fella, played in the league, 28 years old, right? Is that too old? Maybe, possibly.
No, I don't. As I say, I don't want to slander a guy that's coming out as an upcoming Steeler. I just, but as I said like a couple minutes ago, it's not the news I want to wake up to the same day that I hear Terrell Edmunds is signing with the Philadelphia Eagles. And people have slandered Terrell Edmunds his whole time with the Steelers. He's performed better. He's performed better than the average safety drafted in the first round including free safeties who get a lot of interceptions between 2012 and 2019. His AV is ahead of so his approximation value with Pro Football Reference is far ahead, or at least 10% ahead of the average benchmark of a safety drafted then. Terrell Edmunds is not a bust in any way, shape, or form. And if he was a bust, why are the Philadelphia Eagles, who really should have won that Super Bowl, picking him up and happy to? And they would have talked to him just as much as they were talking to Chauncey, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, whatever his name. They would have been talking to him and going, Edmunds, CJGC or whatever it is, and going, well, hey, the guy that went to the Lions is going to cost a lot more than Edmunds. Let's bring in Edmunds. We can get 80% plus of that production. That's clear as day. And the Steel fans are going to find out for the ones that don't like Terrell, they're going to find out what we're missing when this season kicks off.
Funny because the first year or first 2 years they really hated on Edmunds because just for some reason.
Which also is weird because his first year we didn't have Minka, and his first year he was playing free safety and deep, which was not what he was drafted to do.
But I think it comes to the territory of being that first round pick because they also hated Bud Dupree. Called him Bud the Dud. He didn't play very well until last season. Now we all want him back. So just the progression of a Steeler fan. I think we react too fast. I know for sure if we lose the first game, it's going to be the end of the world, which I don't understand. But I think we have a better team. But I'm excited for the draft.
You got for the Broncos. I was just looking at Daredevil's comment
who's that?
on live chat.
Bud?
No, Terrell, where he was Daredevil said the only highlight watchers hate Edmunds. Do you remember that interception that he got against the Broncos? And they pretty much threw it to him. But he just he was just in the right place at the right time. He had a big sack that game. Anyway, we'll go back to Bud, but I'm going to miss Terrell Evans.
Yeah, I think it was a good Steeler, and I think we kind of forget that too. Even though he is now an Eagle, but I think overall as a Steeler and watching him and I think a lot of people who judge Edmunds and judge Bud, they just want a Super Bowl at the end of the day. They don't want to enjoy the process or the journey, right? And the journey was watching Edmunds play fantastic next to Minka and have that three safety rotation set and him coming down the block and smash him in the face, right? I thought he really grew into his own. Now Pittsburgh didn't work out there, but he only signed a 1-year deal, so I would be intrigued to see what Pittsburgh offered him because I was going to think he was going to get like a 2-year or 3-year deal somewhere. I thought he was going to the Bengals. I guess he was going to the Bengals because they had no safeties. Well, they brought one over from the Rams. So I think yeah, I think we judged him too fast, like way too fast. And I thought he was a good player for us.
Yeah, and a player like that that's available that is, I've seen some reports that maybe the Steelers look at him as a guy like Taylor Rapp, who I don't mind. I quite like him actually, out of LA, but he's smaller. He's not the 215 pounds plus. He's about 207, 208 pounds. Olivia King in the live chat brings up Edmunds as a miss and says, does that mean Brian Branch out of Alabama is a legitimate draft target? Now, Branch is about 5'11", and I think he's about 205 to 208 pounds off the top of my head. Again, yeah, at safety, but then you're looking more at a left and right safety rather than a strong safety and a free safety being Minka. Now, Minka's already, I think Minka plays at about 207 pounds himself. So I still think they need to get a big run stuffing style or a big body guy, especially with the tight ends. We talked about this on our Mad Monday show. You've got tight ends in the AFC like Dawson Knox from the Bills. You've got, Hayden Hurst with the Bengals. You've got, Kelsey with the Chiefs. You've got big tight ends that need marking up against. And you need a strong safety that's this 6'2", 210-pound guy that can go and smack him, absolutely smack him. So, and I know what that's like. I'm just under 6'2" myself, about that weight, or a little bit. I'm actually under that weight, but I played rugby and basketball against guys that were exactly the height I'm talking about of all these tight ends, and you do have to be a certain size to be able to stop those guys. It's like physics, right? I do like Brian Branch, and I think Mark and you and I talked about the slot corner for the Steelers, and really it's only Arthur Morlett there with Sutton going on our Mad Monday show, and that's why I think Brian Branch could be an important pick for the Steelers if he slipped particularly to like 32, because you could fill kind of corner, you could get him in safety sets. But I still think, as I said, the Steelers need to bring in a big, strong safety tackler. There's a guy like J.L. Skinner in the draft, who's pretty big. He's 6'4", 218 pounds. A bit raw, had an injury in the combine process, so you didn't see him there. But he's someone I really like out of Boise State. There's also a guy like Sidney Brown out of Illinois, but again, he's not 210 pounds. He's 5'11". I'm not saying the height is make or break, but the Steelers don't have another big cornerback or another big free safety that they can stop those tight ends. And the tight ends are going to really, really be a big deal in the AFC. Like they just are. And Mark Andrews, how can I forget Mark Andrews with the Ravens, right? Particularly if Lamar stays, or if Huntley's there, he's only got one place he can throw the football. So, this is why I'm strong safeties now a real worry for me for the Steelers. And the league usually undervalues safeties. The Steelers don't think about guys like, Polamalu. But yeah, we got a hole there right now.
Bring back Polamalu. That should be fine. Let's do that. Bring back Troy. 43 out of retirement. No, you are right. I really thought going into the free agent period, I really thought that we're going to sign Spillane, keep Miles Jack, and also keep Edmunds, and they're all gone. So I don't know. I don't know. The whole team is changing, really. Like the whole defense is changing. You've got the key guys, Minka, TJ, Cam, but no Edmunds now. Kazi might be playing back their safety. They might get a bigger guy, as you say, but everything's changing on defense, and hopefully it's a good thing. I don't know. I just don't want to see any holes in the defense. And we brought in the 2 middle linebackers now too that can hit. So just want to see some players go out there and rock some heads. But I thought that was a surprising move to see Edmunds sign a deal with the Eagles. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad he's not in the AFC. That's all I'd say. Like, so that's the thing for me. I didn't want to see him go to another AFC team, particularly. I was worried about him going to another North team, to be honest, because I don't think every team undervalues what he did.
I thought Bengals, because they got rid of their 2 safeties, and I made a video yesterday. I thought he could go there. Some people are saying he could go to the Bears, but obviously I don't know why he went to the Eagles. What the link is there? Maybe because they're on the Super Bowl.
Remember Brandon Hunt, who drafted him.
Oh, is he over there, is he?
Yeah, Brandon Hunt's head of player personnel over there. Yep. He
Okay.
got an upgrade from the draft stuff when he went over there. He and Weidel basically swapped jobs.
Right. Is it a worrying sign as a player to only get a 1-year deal though? Is he on another prove a year to get a bigger contract after this?
Well, I haven't seen a contract number yet. Mine might have come out while we were prepping the show, but I haven't seen a contract number, so it's hard to say. I'm not sure. Maybe the Steelers said, or maybe the thing is, Philadelphia don't have a lot of money right now, and they've got to look at where they are. And also, Philadelphia are putting things in place this year to try and get back to the Super Bowl and win it, right? They can't lock into things long term because they got to pay Hurts. And who knows what that number's going to be, right? They cut Slay because they couldn't agree to his deal. Now they brought him back, but there's clearly an issue about money over there, right? And the cap. So, ultimately, that comes into effect as well. But I don't expect to see Edmunds back being a Steeler. I don't expect we'll see that again.
Yeah, probably not. If he's only signed a 1-year deal, you wouldn't say, "Oh, he's going to come back next year." And maybe we don't need that. We're not the Pittsburgh Edmund fan club. We're Pittsburgh Steelers, right? So we're just got to whoever comes in, we're going to cheer them on and see what happens. But good career.
I worry. All I'm saying is I worry around who is available in free agency. I don't think there's a clear top safety in the draft that fits what Steelers need to do. You know what? As I think about it live on the show, I could see the Steelers doing a trade for a strong safety they really like somewhere else in the league. Do a Minka style trade. I could see it.
Who would they trade for his kind of role?
I'd have to. I've thought about that on a bit of a whim, so I'd have to go back and look at it deeply. Because a lot of people are more playing a left and right safety. There's a guy at Washington I don't mind in Curl.
What's the
Landon Collins? See, that's the thing.
That's the bloke. That's the guy there. That one.
Is still available, and if Landon Collins is still available, I talked about him as potential cheap replacement if Edmunds didn't come back. So I don't think he's signed anywhere. So maybe a Landon Collins.
He's a bigger body, right? He's more of a big guy who can play down the box, can't he, and tackle people in the head? Surely. I think he's that kind of
huge. He's like 213 pounds. He's a thumper.
Yeah.
I want to go off over the cap.
What if we bring back Mike Mitchell?
Please no. Yeah, Landon Collins is still available.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Maybe that's a play there.
That's my off the top of my head solution. But if they want someone younger than what Terrell is, they might have to do a trade. But I'd love to bring Landon Collins and then have like JL Skinner there, drafted in like the 3rd or 4th round. I'd love that. That'd be so good.
Wait, what are your other thoughts on? We lost another player too. We lost Steven Sims today to the Texans. He signed a deal over there. What are your thoughts on that?
Look, I liked what he did. I thought it was a cool story in preseason. I think I said to you when we did the show on Mad Monday that I didn't mind Sims. He's a really good 5th, okay 4th. I'm not oh my God about it. The only thing that I'm concerned about is that it helps shore up Gunner's position on the roster, and I wanted to
right.
Gunner. So that's the only thing for me that I'm like, oh, okay. But good on Stims. He seems like a really cool guy. He can make plays.
Yeah.
I think. Do you know what though? I think it's obvious to everyone. Although I think I did say it on a War Room, or I tweeted it out before the Ohio State Pro Day. CJ Stroud, my gut feel, obviously, I think all signs point to him being drafted number 1. Then Bryce Young. I think if the Texans are staying in at 2, I think they'll go take Bryce Young. I could see Steven Sims benefiting from Bryce Young throwing to him. So he'll probably have a better year than what he had with the Steelers. And everyone will say, oh, we let go Sims. And that'll be the narrative that we let Sims go.
Yeah.
But
it's different offense, though. Completely different
100%. It's completely
different role, too. He was a 3rd or 4th guy. and he got 15 receptions last year. So, yeah, we will hear the narrative of him getting 30, 40 catches, going off, third down conversions, punt return, He almost took one to the house, but so I don't think it's a huge loss. I think it's just like a loss because he was a good player. I think he likes to play football.
You can get other guys. There's other guys around that.
Big time.
Can do that sort of stuff. I find it funny though. The Steelers have these sorts of guys that and maybe we're too harsh critics on it, but think about Steven Sims, think about Ray McLeod the year before. They do these sort of spot roles for the Steelers, and then they go off and join another team, and they move up the depth chart with the other team. It's kind of funny.
Ray did pretty good with the Niners last year.
Yeah, man.
He did pretty good for the Niners last year, so you're right. Yeah,
in my Madden league, so he's done well for the Niners, ended up at the Giants, and he's actually doing really well. So his ratings way higher. I had my.
Is he the Giants now? Ray.
In my Madden franchise,
okay.
But he's actually someone you have to scheme for, whereas before, whatever.
But he's I guess an example where he was fourth or fifth receiver on our offense, and he went there to be third, I guess, and still But yeah, different offense, different quarterback, stuff like that, But we'll see what happens with Sims over there. With Texans and a new quarterback, should be quite. I'm not sure what the deal was. Could be a 1 year, 2 year, but now the Steelers got to find a new kick returner.
Well, he was also.
But you're right. Could be Gunnar.
I'm pretty sure he was an RFA like James Pierre, who obviously re-signed back under $1.1 million for the Steelers, so that's a saving there. But Steven Sims was an RFA as well, so he was going to cost them quite a bit of money. So they kind of had to let him go investigate free agency to make sure it was cost effective. Otherwise, they would have had to cut Gunnar O, because Gunnar O. They save $2 million if they cut him, but then they have a dead cap hit of $600,000. I still think they should be doing that, particularly if they need to get one of these big, better safeties. But safety's a big one. Hopefully they bring in Landon Collins. I wouldn't hate that, but then I still think you've got to spend a top, you've got to draft in the first 4 rounds of the draft a future young strong safety there.
Was there any other news that kind of caught your eye this week? And by the way, if you can continue the show soon, Matty, but can you hear that noise out there? Bloody big car outside. I got to jump soon in about 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah, you got 2 minutes left. I know you got 2 minutes left.
Yeah.
Wrap it up.
But yeah, any other big news you've seen?
I think overall, last year we saw a lot of trades in the draft, particularly around the first round, day before start of day 2. I think you're going to see more of that this year. I think it's been a bit of a weird free agency. I think it's interesting what has happened at wide receiver. Given Lamar's situation as well, there's kind of Ravens and Colts, I think, that are really in there in the mix. And if you want Lamar, are you trading up and getting Anthony Richardson anyway, and getting him to sit behind someone and develop? There's been some interesting narratives going on around that. Obviously, what the Jets do as well with Rodgers, because that affects picks. Because the Jets, take the Jets, for example, and people go, hang on, why are we talking about the Jets? But the Jets are picking 12th, right? The Jets are a team that need a tackle, but Mekhi Becton's apparently looking really fit, lost a lot of weight, not injured. If they don't take Broderick Jones, there's a chance that he falls to the Steelers, right? The same thing, depending on how the quarterbacks fall. I saw Will Levis falling out of the top 10, in a updated mock, from someone that, may be closer in the know. And if Will Levis falls to the Titans, why would they not draft him? They need a quarterback, right? So all these things, but right now they're the ones picking Skoronski if he's not picked by the Bears. So there are a lot of, I guess you asked me what I'm hearing this week. I think there's so much more change to come. I feel like free agency, there's a lot of players moving, don't get me wrong. But I do think that the situation is that there's a lot more change. Think about what transfer portal has brought to college football. You've seen just people are moving now. It's harder. Ben said it this week on football. And then he said one other thing I want to bring up. He said on his podcast that it's very hard to build a dynasty with the way free agency is set up now. And even the
big time.
And then the other thing he said, everyone's up on getting cranky at Dan Moore. but he was like, I really rate Dan Moore. Now, Dan's played with a lot of left tackles. If he's cool with Dan Moore protecting him and he likes Dan Moore, I'm not saying Ben knows everything, but Ben, a quarterback makes a lot of money if their blindside's protected, and Dan Moore did that. So I would just say, I think even for myself, I've sat there and been a bit more open. You know what? If Dan Moore doesn't develop this year, then fine. If Broderick Jones is available, go and draft him. I love that. And then there's competition. I still think Dan Moore can work further inside as well. But this narrative of Dan Moore's an idiot and not good at his job.
It's only based off a few plays, though, isn't it? To me, they got better near the end. They went 9-8.
I mean, I said on the
run game
show,
improved.
Yeah, and I said on the Warren show a couple of days ago, look, he's got to improve. He can't let in 7 sacks again. But, if he lets in 4 this season, that's a massive improvement. That's 50% improvement. He played 1,160 snaps too. Like he's, and the year before he'd played the most snaps. He'd been in the top 10 snaps in the league in like a rookie year. Like that's pretty big. But I know you got to jump. I could stay on for a few more minutes. If the live chat have got questions for me, I'll open up to Q&A. If there's not any questions, I'll wrap up the show. But live chat, go nuts. Ask me some questions.
Before I go, this has been the weirdest show because I haven't seen any chat, so I'll go back and watch it. So, I got to jump and go do some pickleball. But sling the questions to Matty, put him on the spot, and I'll see you guys later. Here we go, Steelers. Go Steelers. Let's go.
Awesome. And
did I go?
Yeah, that's right. I'll move it. There we go. So thank Marky D for jumping in. He's got to go off to a pickleball tournament. I'm just going to look through questions in the live chat. If anyone's got a question, throw one in there. We'll take questions for like 5 or 10 minutes. But there was a question about NBA. I think that was from the Great One who asked me that. Yes, I do follow the NBA. I used to watch a lot more of it. It's hard when you do a Pittsburgh Steelers channel to keep watching it. But I grew up a lot with the Bulls, as some of the people in the live chat said. It was my dad's favorite team, so we watched them. I have more followed teams based on a player, which I just feel like that's how I've absorbed it on the other side of the world as a international sports fan. So I liked Kevin Garnett when he was at the T-Wolves. I liked Steve Nash when he was with the Suns. I liked Kevin Durant when he was at Oklahoma. And then I just decided a couple of years ago I'd just stick with the Timberwolves. They were my OG team. But still watch the Bulls a little bit as well. But yeah, I think obviously we're talking about there with Mark. For those that did miss Mad Monday show, go back and have a look at it. But we brought up a depth chart, and I talked about the fact that the Steelers have 3 glaring gaps on the roster. And this is where I think they need to really focus for the rest of the free agency going into the draft. And that's at strong safety. It's at the 3rd wide receiver spot or slot wide receiver spot, depending on how you want to construct your team. And it's also at the 3rd cornerback spot, or slot cornerback spot. Now, you can have 3 outside guys. That kind of works, but they definitely need to get better at slot. I know we all like Arthur Mollett, but Arthur Mollett is getting older. He's good in some situations versus others. We do need to get someone in there that's that versatile all-rounder guy as well. It's really important with how often the Steelers are playing sub-package. So there are a lot of so there is a question we got through from Britsburg Owen, good fan and friend of the show. He says, Matty, do you think wide receivers are need for the Steelers given the fact we've only got Pickens as a quality wideout and we don't know about Austin? Well, I mean, I love the shade that Britsburg brings there on Deontay. I do. And I think if I look at the guys, not knowing what we've got in Austin on the roster, we do bring back Anthony Miller. I think I said to Mark on Mad Monday show, I think we need a big guy, to be honest. I think we need a 6'3", 6'4". I know Pickens is a big guy, but Pickens is going to be your, I'm not saying he's going to be the next DeAndre Hopkins, but I do think he's going to play the role that DeAndre Hopkins played for the Texans. I could see that role being played for the Steelers, just in terms of even the frequency of catches. And so we need another guy that's going to draw the bigger defensive backs in the secondary of opposition teams away from Pickens and free him up to do stuff. The other thing is Pickens can do stuff in the slot. I want to see Pickens be able to move around and not have to be the big catcher. So, or big receiver. They're getting up on every single high ball. Obviously, Freemuth comes in the mix in the slot and catching high balls as well, but he also has to block on some plays. He's not going to be able to catch the football every single time. So I do like a bigger guy. I do think Anthony Miller's a decent fourth, a great fifth wide receiver. You've got Austin there in the mix, but we don't know what we've seen till Austin. So if you're asking me whether wide receivers in need, I do think that, but I don't see it in the top 80 to 100 picks. Unless the Steelers trade back into the draft or there's some trade before the draft where they get multiple picks in the top 120, then I could see it there. Great one says, about the NBA, that a lot of people are player fans. Yeah, I think it's sort of, that's hard because I obviously like Michael Jordan when I was a kid growing up as well, like everyone did. Fun fact, though, for everyone in America, they did a sports poll in the late 90s in Australia, where Australia had a number of national teams that were the best number one team in the world, have won World Cups, like things like rugby and cricket and that sort of stuff. And at the time, they did a survey, and we had the best cricketer, batsman in the world, and bowler or pitcher if it was baseball. And they did a poll, and basically the majority of Australians under 20 that answered the poll, and it was like a really widespread poll, said that Michael Jordan was their favorite sports person. So, yeah, kind of crazy when you're on the other side of the world, and that's the case. Devil says we can get a wide receiver round 4 or later, not that pressing of a need compared to others. Exactly. And as well as that, the wide receivers in this draft, you're going to see a bunch of guys go early, and then there's just going to be this massive gap, I think, for about 30 to 50 picks. And so that's going to open it up to, particularly to the smaller school guys. But I think the Steelers can get away with it, just particularly, as I said with Mark on Mad Monday, the Steelers can get away with what's on the roster right now. I mean, I still think they'll draft a guy late or pick someone up who's cut in the process between now and the start of the season. But they can get away with it if Najee Harris starts to get used more in the short passing game, because then Freiermuth can do more in the slot. And I do think that was something untapped. And I was surprised we didn't see more from Canada, given how much Ben was able to use Najee in the short passing game. And given Pickett was a rookie, I don't know why that wasn't seen as a safety blanket that could still get yardage for the Steelers. However, it might have something to do a little bit with Kenny being like basically the third quarterback on the depth chart right up until like that last preseason game going into the season. Jennifer Perusa asks a question and says, last year they kept saying that OL needs time to gel. Do you think all the changes will take a long time to gel? Again, Mark and I kind of talked about this a little bit recently, where I think, we had a show that said Isaac Seumalo was not the starting right guard for the Pittsburgh Steelers because he played way more snaps at left guard. Why are you going to move James Daniels when he's got the chemistry with a core four? So I think the right side is locked, barring injury. I think on the left side, I think Dotson's more of a trade potential than a lot of people have said. I've been saying that for over 12 months. Dan Moore, I think, is more locked in than what we like. I think some of the things I've seen this week lead me to that. Obviously, Mark and I were talking about that earlier on in the show. So I think Seumalo probably comes in for Dotson. Maybe they are still concerned about James Daniels' injury history. Maybe they don't expect him to play 17 games. You can't expect all 5 guys to play 17 games. So you need the depth, which is why guys like Nate Herbig is a really good example of bringing him in. We also know that Mason Cole had an injury last year. I don't see Daniels going back to center. But interestingly, when Isaac Seumalo was drafted into the league, a lot of teams had him moving inside to center, and he had played some center in college. He's played a little bit of center in the NFL, but I think it's like less than like 200 or 300 snaps. He's played about 3,000 snaps, so it's less than 10%. So there's a bit of depth there potentially as well. But yeah, I do think these changes won't, because ultimately you've got 5 starters there now. You've got 7 guys that are capable of starting. So I think it's more about how the Steelers, improving the play on the O-line. And then if a guy falls to them in the draft, great. Even if the guy, and this is the thing, there might be a 2nd, 3rd, or 4th round guy on their board at tackle that they can bring in and have sit behind a core forward Dan Moore for a year. And it doesn't matter. And so actually, I think the Steelers could improve through the draft this year at the tackle position. And we might not know that for another season or two when everything comes to play, or when an injury happens during the season. So it's kind of an interesting spot. Great one talks about Mark Collins. Yeah, I heard a little bit about that as well. Yeah, JW shouldn't take long because we've got better talent. Exactly. Mark asks, will the Steelers get Addison? Maybe. I hope not. I think that would be a waste of the 17th pick. Jennifer Perusil says, do any of the new O-line have experience with Pat Myers' attack system? That's a really good question. I have to go in and check that. But ultimately, what you saw out of Pat Meyer last year, and overall that sort of system where they sort of sat back and instead of sitting back and reacting, you would going forward and making that move, and being a lot more aggressive with it. That's what you see out of Siumalu. The other thing that I think that a lot of people missed on Siumalu is that he is a guy that's super agile, and that's able to do what Pouncey did and like rotate around that offensive line, and pull basically. That's the word I was looking for. But yeah, he can pull, and that's a big deal for that interior as well, particularly with interior pressure. And interestingly, everyone talks about tackles a lot, but a lot of the narrative the last couple of weeks with some of the interior guys, because guards have been signing at much better, much higher averages than what tackles and averages that tackles usually sign for in this set of free agency. And they were talking about it in that, like, quarterbacks like Drew Brees will tell you every time that the interior O-line guys are really important. That's where he gets pressure. So I'm kind of cool with the Steelers beefing that up. We know Okorafor is really good at pass blocking out there at tackle. He did that, in that second year when he was called up to versus Aaron Donald. He did that super well. And Dan Moore's not bad at it either. So he always plays well against the Browns. So, yeah, I mean, I'd have to look deeply for that, Jennifer. But I'm not sitting here saying no one's a fit. I think people fit that aggressiveness, and they're big guys that want to make plays and get the run game in, and get into the second level and help the run game get into the second level as well. Great one says, odd question, but are you a Penn State fan? No, I am not. I am a Texas Longhorns fan. So yeah, I don't do too much Texas stuff ever on this channel. But yeah, I am a Texas Longhorns fan through and through. So yeah, I mean, excited. They've got a lot of guys in the draft that could end up as Steelers. So I'm kind of excited. You've got like Jomo, the defensive tackle. You got Keandre Coburn, who's a guy I've liked for years. He shows up so much on tape. Like, I think he'll get drafted back into the 4th, early the 5th, where a lot of people probably have him 6 or 7, just because of what he does in the run game. And he'd be a nice addition over the Steelers, to be honest. You also have Demarion Overshawn, who, if they're going back to what Mark and I were talking about earlier with the safeties, if they don't go out and get a guy that's 210 pounds plus, Demarion Overshawn's like 221 pounds. I think he ran a 4.68 40-yard time, but he's 6'4". You can use him in different packages. You can use him inside or outside in the linebacking core. I do think he's probably got to put on 5 to 10 pounds worth of muscle in the NFL. He's going to be playing inside. And even I think he needs at least another 5 to 10 pounds of muscle on the outside as well. But he's got the frame that you can put that on him, and he's going to be great. So, yeah, Texas have a few players. We'll have a few more players in the draft next year. But they're probably the 3 guys that I sit there and I say they're potentially fits for the Steelers. There's a tackle for Texas as well that's not coming out this year. He almost did, but he went back in. I think he'll move up. I think he'll be a 3rd or 4th round pick in 2024. So I'm interested to see what a season he has, and he might be someone we bring up on the show occasionally, because I do think he's someone that might be helpful for the Steelers, in a year to come when we're looking at, who we bring in to compete with a core of 4 there. Oh, great one was asking Claude. Fair enough. Oh, well, you helped with a question there. I do actually watch a little bit of Penn State, though. I've got a family friend that goes to Penn State, so I do watch a little bit of it. But yeah, oh, cool. So there's guys in the live chat that are Ohio State and Penn State guys, and they're recognizing each other. I love that about this Steelers family. This is why Mark and I do it. It's just a really good sport channel. But with that, I think we're heading up to 45 minutes, so I'm going to wrap up the show. Thank you, everyone, for listening. If you are a regular listener to our show and you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button. If you do like the show, hit the like button. If you want the notifications and you haven't hit the bell icon before, do that. You can also find all of our longer shows, so anything plus sort of 15 minutes, all goes on to the audio side as well at Steelers TDU on Apple, Anchor, and Spotify, so you can listen to that and subscribe there, particularly when you're on the go. And as always, if you've got any questions for for me or for Mark, or you've got anything that you want to have us focus on, you can email me at aussiesteeler91@gmail.com. There's guys on the audio side like Dave the Trucker. Massive shout out to Dave the Trucker. And he'll tell you, like, there's a few things he's asked us. We've definitely talked about them. We can't do it every time, but we'll do our absolute best to address it in some way, shape, or form. And then to close out, look, there's 2 more questions. I'll quickly address it. Tuzar 2.0. I don't think we know yet because we don't know who they've picked up in the draft, or particularly undrafted free agents. I'm kind of really excited for who the Steelers pick up as an undrafted free agent this year. I think that's going to be that's where we could find some pieces. Imagine if we got like an edge guy, for example, or a cornerback that was a bit like a Jalen Warren pickup. That'd be awesome. And then Jennifer finishes off and says, I heard reports the Steelers were working closely at Nate Herbig's little brother, Nick. I don't know anything about him. Do you? Yeah, I do. He's out of Wisconsin. He's probably a 3rd-round guy. Think about, some people there's some detractors for Nick. But at the same time, there was some detractors for TJ Watt out of Wisconsin. And look what he's proven to be. So, let me do a bit more on him. Maybe we'll bring him up. I'll do a bit of a segment in a War Room show on him. But it could be really interesting to pair them up. The Steelers do like their brothers, so you could never say never. But yeah, with that, we're going to close out the show. Have a good weekend. I know it's your Friday night over there in the US. If you listen to this afterwards, I hope you had a good weekend. But yeah, enjoy. And as always, go Steelers.